Alright, so now we're ready to compile all the images together on the computer. There's two different ways we can do this. We can use the Star Trails program. This is a free program that you can download for Windows. So if you don't have Adobe Photoshop and you still want to take Star Trails and you're on a Windows computer, this is for you. You can get it off the website startrails.de. We can also use Adobe Photoshop to compile all of the Star Trail photos. And this is what I usually use now. I'm going to show you how to do both methods. And this Star Tracer program, I'm not going to really go deep into this at all, but I just wanted to mention this to you that there is a program out there that will fill in the little tiny gaps that show up between each 30-second exposure. That's the only disadvantage when you're taking 30-second exposures one after the other compared to one super long exposure, is that there is a little tiny bit of gap between the lines, Star Trail lines. And what Star Tracer does is you can open up a photograph and it will automatically fill in those gaps for you. And another thing that's cool that Star Tracer does is that you can actually make the Star Trails longer. So if I wanted to extend this line right here, the Star Trails line, I can extend it however long as I wanted to, because it can detect the circular pattern and then draw the lines in. So that I'm not going to go into, but that is there for you to look up on your own time, Star Tracer. So let's just go into Star Trails really quick and I'll show you how this works. Going to open up the Star Trails program. Here is the interface. That's what it looks like. The first thing that you're going to want to do is click Open Images. Before we do that though, I want to mention that there's this thing that says Open Dark Frames. And what a dark frame is that it's a picture that you take when you're taking your Star Trails photo, but you just have the lens cap on your lens. You have all the same settings that you would have if you were to take your Star Trails photo, but it's just your lens cap is on. And the reason why that is because when you take a picture like that, it actually records the noise level onto the image, and this Star Trails program can look at that image and detect all the noise and then reduce the noise a little bit. So that always helps. And the reason why you have to take the photo at the same time that you take the Star Trails photo is because temperature actually affects the noise on your images. So that's why you have to take it. But besides the dark frames, let's just go to Open Images. And now we're going to go scroll down where all my Star Trail photos are. Now this is where they are. You can see them all right here. Took them in the front yard. And I'm just gonna select maybe like just maybe 9 of them right here. And I'm going to click Open. I don't want to do all of them, like, because there's probably like 100 in there, and that's just going to take a really long time. So I just want to show you a quick example. Now you see that the images are listed here, and the dark frames, if you were to have a dark frame, I don't have one. You don't need one. It's just optional. That would be listed here. So now we're going to click Build, and we're going to click Star Trails. If you click Average Foreground, it will blend the images in a way that will make it much brighter. And if you click Video, you can actually make a video of the Star Trails passing one frame at a time. But you have to resize your images to do that before you can render the video, because the images have to be in the same aspect ratio as a video file. So anyways, we're going to click Star Trails, and it's going to take a little while to render this out. And you can see the progress bar right here. And if you look closely, it actually is adding pixel by pixel each picture. So there it is right there. Now you can see that's not much because I only added 9 pictures, but if I added like all of them, it'll be much longer. So that's that. When you're all done with the picture, you would click File, Save Image, and you would just save it on your computer as a JPEG. But we're going to learn how to do this inside of Photoshop. So let's open up Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how I made this picture step by step. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is click File, Scripts, load files into stack. Now what this is it just compiles all your images and puts them all to the right on the layers palette here when you're in a Photoshop document. So, alright, so when this pops up, we're just going to click Browse. We're going to scroll all the way down to where we took the star trail photos on our memory card. I'm going to click the very last photo, and I'm going to scroll up to where the first images are. And now I'm going to hold down the Shift key and then click the last file. It's going to select all the files in between. Okay, now I'm just going to deselect this image to get rid of that because that's an image I don't want. I'm going to hold down Control and click it, and it'll just deselect that one. Now I'm going to select some of these other ones that I took because this is actually a panorama photo. You can see that I've taken some images of the yard, and I tilted the camera up a little bit, took some more images, and then finally I got to the sky and I took a bunch of star trail photos when I was at the sky. And I did use the X21 flashlight to light paint this scene. That's probably why it looks significantly bright and well lit. So I'm going to click this picture for the very first foreground layer, and then I'm going to have to decide between all these other ones which one I like best. I always like to take multiple pictures because then you can just pick one that looks good later. I really don't know too much, but I think I kind of like this one. I like it because the light is kind of scattered throughout the scene. Whereas if you compare this one to this one, the light is kind of just like everywhere and it's kind of illuminating everything. This kind of looks a little bit more darker and a little bit more spooky. I think I'm going to go with that for right now at least. I could change it later whenever I wanted to. But for right now I'm just going to click that. And do we need any of these other ones? This is where I initially started taking the pictures, so I think we will keep this guy right here. And that's good. After we have all those selected, click Open. And it'll take a while to list all those images because we have a whole ton of them. So now we have them. We're just going to leave both of these unchecked, and we're just going to click OK, and we're going to wait a while for it to do its thing and to compile all the images to the right of the frame. Okay, so all the images are now located in the layers palette here. I'm just going to move this up a little bit, and we can see that we're all right here. So the very first thing I want to do is I'm just going to click on the eyeball and scroll these down so I can get rid of those because I'm not really interested in looking at those right now. I'm just going to want to click the very first Star Trails picture right here. Now I'm just going to change the blending mode to this layer to lighten. And now to apply it to all the other pictures, I'm going to right click this text and then I'm going to click Copy Layer Style. Next, I'm going to click the next image down, scroll all the way down, hold down the Shift key, and then click the last image. That selects all of them. Now, I'm going to right click on the text on one of the images, and I'm going to click Paste Layer Style. Boom. It just compiled all the Star Trail photos. Now, if we wanted to zoom in, we can get a little bit more detail, get closer up on this, and we can see all of its glory. You can barely even see the gaps between the picture. It's like almost non-existent. That's how good the rubber band technique is. It does become a little bit more apparent when you look on the outside, but when you go closer to Polaris, the North Star, you can barely detect it. So I'm going to zoom out now, and I also want to show you one more little thing you can do to maybe brighten up the sky if you want to. You can change the blending mode on one of the pictures to screen. That will make it a little bit more brighter, and you can do that, do the same thing, copy layer style, maybe select a few more images, and click Paste Layer Style again, and it will just brighten up that part a little bit. Now this does introduce a little bit of noise when you do this, so don't overdo it too much, but it can add a nice aesthetic to the image. I think I'm going to tone it down just a little bit, but I do like to keep some of that glow. I think it looks nice. So I'm going to go right about there. I think that looks good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click the top star trail photo again, go all the way down, hold down the shift key, click again, and I'm going to right click and click merge layers, because that is now one segment. That's just one little thing now. We don't have to worry about all those layers. Now what we got to do is worry about the panorama, putting these all together. So here's the same frame I took of this one. I just lit up the trees. So if I click lighten as the blending mode, we can see them both together, and we can see that that's how it's going to look like. And now look at this. We got this picture and this picture. So how are we going to align these? Well, what we're going to do is first is I just want to combine these two pictures together. So I'm going to select the two layers, right click, merge layers. So now we just have three guys we're going to be working with. So let's select all of these, and now let's go to edit, auto align layers. We're going to click that, and you can click either one. I usually go with auto or cylindrical. I usually have no problems with this one right here. It's usually always works for me pretty good. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to wait for it to try to align these images and create a panorama. Alright, now if we zoom out, we can see that it's interpreting the pictures as a horizontal picture, which is not the case. So we're going to go to image rotation, rotate the canvas 90 degrees counterclockwise. And here we go. But now look at what it did. The brightness levels are different on all of them. And this one has no star trails, and this one does. So how are we going to fix this? What we're going to do is go to edit, and then click auto blend layers, and we are going to make sure that panorama is checked. We're also going to have seamless tones and colors checked. We're going to click OK. We're going to wait for that to do its thing, and bammo, there it goes. It's pretty much perfect. So what we can do now is click layer, flatten image, and finally it is just one nice picture. So I'm just going to quickly crop the areas. I'm going to select my rectangular marquee tool over here and make a little selection around the majority of the photo. And I'm going to click image, crop. And there we go. That's what we got so far. And now you'll notice that in this picture we had the orb there. So where the heck did that come from? Well, this is where it came from right here. I took a separate shot of the orb a long time ago, and I just had it laying around on my hard drive, and I said, hey, you can place an orb in any nighttime photograph. It works out that way. So I'm going to show you how to do that. What we're going to do is just select this portion of the photo. That's all we really need. And we're going to press Control-C to copy the image. You would press Command-C if you were on a Macintosh computer. Now we're going to go back to our picture that we're working on and press Control-V or Command-V. And then it's pasted. It's right there. So now we're going to select the blending mode to either lighten or screen. You can choose which one you like. I'm just going to go with screen right now. I'm going to pop that orb right about there. And now if I wanted to, I could make it bigger as well by pressing Control-T and then holding down Shift and selecting the corner and dragging it up. And that will preserve the aspect ratio while I make a bigger orb. So I'm going to place that right there, push Enter to put that there. Now when we zoom in, we can go between lighten and screen. I kind of like screen because it has the glow of this part. So that's that. And now the very last touch, if you can see on this photo, this one looks a little bit more colorful, just a little bit. So in order to get that look, all I did was select this layer, go to Image, Adjustments, Vibrance, and then I just fiddled around with these until I got something that looked okay looking. I'm going to move the saturation up a little bit, and that looks okay right about there. I don't want to overdo it too much. Click OK. And if the grass is looking a little bit too yellow or something, you can go to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. And then we can just move this just a tad bit to make it a little bit more green, or if we wanted to, a little bit more red. I kind of like how it looks red. It kind of looks nice like that. So I'm going to click, leave it there, click OK, and there is our picture. So that's how you do a Star Trails photo inside of Photoshop. I also wanted to show you this example though really quickly. This is just a picture. If I disable this layer mask, you can see what this picture is. This is the original picture that I took. But if we take a separate Star Trail photo, we can actually make the picture a little bit bigger. And that's what I wanted to show you how to do in this. Because you can extend the sky and just make it bigger, and I think that's worth mentioning in this video. So, in order to do that, all we had to do is take another Star Trails photo. And let me disable this mask so you can see it. This is just a separate Star Trail photo I took just of the sky, just so I could have this picture for this purpose. And so when both layers are on, this layer, the blending mode is on screen. This one is on lighten. It could just be on normal. But this one is pure black. So once you got all those in place, you're going to turn on the layer masks. And I made a layer mask just to fade out the edges. So if I disable this here, you can see that this is a sharp edge, and if we turn both of them on, you can clearly see that the photograph ends there and this was photoshopped in. It's totally fake. However, if we enable that layer mask, it fades the picture out on the top, so it doesn't look too photoshopped. And on this picture right here, it's the exact same thing. If I disable this layer mask, you can see that it's chopped off right there. So if I enable both, you can and if you zoom in, you can clearly see that that's not looking too good. So if you enable the layer mask, that's how you do it. And in order to make a very nice gradient like that, I just use the gradient tool right here, pick the black and white one, and just softly made a gradient. You're going to want to make sure that the black and white is on, not the black and transparent. So I'm going to click that and make another gradient there. And that's how you do it. And you can fade it out like up here if you wanted to, which I don't want to do. But I mean, you could if you wanted to. But I like to fade it out just like that. It looks pretty good. And the exact same thing was done with this layer too. I'm just going to select the very top of the picture and then graduate my gradient down from there. So it just looks like that. It's all good. It's an extended landscape photo, but we just added star trails to the sky and extended the sky upward.